from layer 1 to layer 2 to layer 3 and beyond. Please join us, Uri Kolodny, co-founder and CEO of Starkware. Thank you. Take the stage, Uri.
Hi, good evening or good afternoon, everyone. I'm here in Israel, morning here. A pleasure to be presenting to this forum. So I wanted to talk to you today about the transition from layer 1 to layer 2, and now the new frontier of layer 3 and beyond. So first, we had permissionless blockchains. That was sort of, way back in 2009 when Satoshi Nakamoto came up with Bitcoin. And that was a huge advancement in the field of distributed systems and economics. But the major step from our perspective was the advent of Ethereum, a programmable blockchain, and that came about a few years later. And Ethereum had all sorts of wonderful properties. One of them was the fact that it allowed anyone to define whatever business logic they want and deploy that on the blockchain in a program that we now call smart contracts for some silly reason. And those programs, anyone could interact with them permissionlessly by sending transactions to the network. And those networks, that network today has achieved a remarkable feat. It is a very secure network, and it is secure by merit of being highly decentralized, meaning it is running today on tens of thousands of independent computers all over the world. In that sense, it is censorship resistant. It is unstoppable. One thing it is lacking, though, is scale in a very painful way. Ethereum today can handle about 15 transactions a second. And 15 transactions a second is a miserable number in the context of real life. Right now, Visa is doing thousands of transactions a second. Alipay on a busy day can do hundreds of thousands of transactions. 15 transactions a second won't settle the needs of individual applications, let alone an entire economy, if this is to be the foundation of a global economy. And so layer 2s were born. Layer 2s is the ecosystem's set of solutions that aim to solve the scaling problem. And in the process of creating layer 2s, of course, we had to rename Ethereum and other blockchains layer 1. In our solution at Starkware to layer 2, the first solution we came up with was StarkX. StarkX was introduced in the middle of 2020, and over the past 12 months has settled over 125 million transactions over Ethereum, and over half a trillion dollars in value settled. And it can achieve scale. It can achieve scale in a massive way, and we'll talk about how and why in a second. It comes in in data availability flavors. One is called Validium, where the transaction related data resides off-chain, and this is a much cheaper and not as secure solution. And it also comes in roll-up mode, where the data is on-chain. And we have systems deployed over mainnet Ethereum that use these two flavors. And what you have here is a permission solution, which is application specific. So we can handle payments and transfers. We can handle spot trading. We can handle minting and trading of NFTs. We can handle a form of derivative trading called perpetual contracts. We have customers such as Immutable, who of course you guys know from down under. We have Sorare, we have Diversify, we have DYDX, and as of this next week, actually, Seller is coming out with its own solution. So StarkX is a sort of a set of solution use cases in a box that turn them into an application-specific solution, and they are permissioned in the sense that one needs to have an actual legal contract with us in the context of what is now referred to as Web 2 legal contracts. Are of course sort of the way business is done. In the context of blockchains, a legal contract is frowned upon, and for good reason. Because what you don't have with StarkX is you don't have the ability to sort of allow anyone to program whatever logic they want. You don't have this general purpose logic. You don't have composability, which is a beautiful property of permissionless blockchains that allow one program to invoke another program without any fanfare, without any permission from anyone. And so these properties are not achieved with StarkX. Fortunately, StarkX was built using Cairo, a programming language that we invented at Starkware. And that very language could be used to develop a solution we call StarkNet. And that has been live on a public testnet since the middle of 2021, and the alpha went live on mainnet back in November. And this does have general purpose, does have composability, and does have permissionlessness. And so once these properties are achieved, from our perspective, something remarkable is now available to developers all over the world. Now, the problem is that we're not done, okay? Because as these entities started, these developers, these applications started deploying on the public StarkNet, they've come to appreciate that they still don't have the control they want. They don't have the privacy, which is in a way a form of control, and they don't have hyperscale. Let me just say a couple of words about hyperscale. Applications, or I should say we, are always unsatisfied. We always want lower gas per transaction. We always want lower cost. We always want more scale to serve more use cases, to serve more people more effectively. So that's hyperscale. So what is control? What is this thing about control? Well, control has to do with something very, very interesting and very intuitive. So intuitive that in the context of what we now call Web 2, we never give it a second thought. But it is a business's ability to control all sorts of parameters in its operation. And in the context of layer 1 and layer 2, a public layer 2 like StarkNet, or a layer 1 like Ethereum, telling a Web 2 business, think of it as a gaming studio or a bank, etc., saying to them, you are going to coexist on public infrastructure alongside everyone else. And you are, by doing so, going to have to give up control, for example, over the software stack. That is something that a lot of them cannot live with. They cannot live with because they have regulatory requirements or because they have business to sort of protect and sustain. But that is something that is very difficult for them to come to terms with. And so layer 3 was born. And in layer 3, we're doing something which we think is quite interesting in the context of bringing together the needs of real-world businesses and the blockchain ecosystem. Public StarkNet will become sort of the general purpose layer 2. And the StarkXs that I mentioned earlier are going to move up to layer 3. So instead of settling their transactions over Ethereum, over layer 1, they will do so over the public StarkNet. Interestingly enough, we will also see, and very soon, private instances of StarkNet. So what is a private instance of StarkNet? It is the same software stack that one sees in the public domain in the public StarkNet, but it is now controlled by a single business or set of businesses that want to have their own, call it a walled garden, with their own ecosystem and needs. And into that walled garden, they can invite Alice, but not Bob. So Alice can deploy her contract there, her smart contract there. And by doing so, she will now have composable access to the logic implemented by others within that private StarkNet. But others outside the walled garden won't have that. And so these solutions at layer 3, I mean, we can have, of course, as many as you want of these, will give you control, will give you privacy, and will give you hyperscale. And we believe that is sort of the holy grail of the blockchain ecosystem. So to just sort of take a step back, the journey we've come along over the past, I would say, 6 or 7 years. Well, if we're starting to count from the birth of Ethereum. We started out with a layer 1 with Ethereum that was highly secure and decentralized, okay, and allowed, of course, for general purpose programming in a permissionless fashion, but in the process lost scale entirely. We came up with layer 2s in order to achieve a solution to that scaling problem. The first order attempt there from Starkware's perspective gave up on permissionlessness, on composability, and on allowing developers to implement whatever general purpose they wanted. The second wave we call StarkNet, and that will achieve all these properties. And the alpha is live running over mainnet Ethereum. And then we sort of started bumping into the needs of real-world businesses, of Web2 businesses who said, well, we would love to engage the blockchain ecosystem, but we're missing all sorts of fundamental needs that are crucial to our business, namely control and privacy, and give us more and more of that scale that you offer. And then layer three is our solution to that. And over the next year or so, we will start seeing these instances pop up left and right, both StarkX instances for people who want out of the box the functionality that is offered by StarkX today, and StarkNet private instances or app-specific instances of StarkNet itself for those who would like to do all sorts of creative stuff on their own, independent of what Starkware has bothered to implement, what logic Starkware has bothered to implement in StarkX or other applications. So what does the future hold in this regard? So much like we can settle on Ethereum, we can settle on other layer one blockchains. And we can do that today if we decide to do so over any blockchain that supports the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine. And without much fanfare, we can do this over other blockchains as well. Now, why is that interesting? It's interesting because it effectively creates a bridge between all these different layer ones, a trustless bridge. And trustlessness is a very important parameter in the blockchain ecosystem, one that is often overlooked in the rush to declare a win and to declare decentralization and to declare permissionlessness, etc. So that is our roadmap for the future. That's it. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to present to this forum.